I'd like to help you avoid bad food plot locations this season. And you know, I travel the country, I go to clients about 100 a year or more. So you can imagine the locations that I see that are actually doing a lot more harm than good. And that is the problem with a lot of food plots and a lot of the ways that people are hunting them, accessing their land. And a bad food plot location can really ruin your land. And you know, especially, we have some space out here, a lot of edge. So if we ruin this spot, this 20 acres, we still have some other acres working for us. But boy, if you have a 20 acre parcel of 40 or even an 80, you can destroy large chunks of your property because of a bad food plot location. First of all, I'd like you to consider a few things. And one of them is that food plot next to your neighbor's land? And so if you have a food plot next to your neighbor's cover, and even if that food plot's used all the time, if the deer are living on your neighbors because of that food plot, and you're putting those deer on your neighbors during daylight hours, during their bedding hours, that's a bad thing. And so that's one concern. Well, this food plot right here is not near the neighbor land other than the ag fields out here. There's no woods, there's no deer that are going to live in there. They're all going to live on our land over here. The problem is with this food plot, and that brings up the second point, is access. Just because it's good food plot space doesn't mean it's a good food plot. This food plot right here, this was never planted before. It's a bunch of weeds and brush. There's some logs over here, lots of thistle in here. And so what we did with this last year is I sprayed it multiple times, and then I was able to plant, and it did pretty well. We actually got some buckwheat in here. We were able to get beans and peas, oats, later dressed with rye, and then brassica too. And so we had a good crop in here. It actually did pretty well. I looked at creating a food plot here. We have access about 200 yards that way along a telephone line that's hidden from this. But, you know, really it ended up, we had to drive through here a lot or walk through here to access stand locations. And with this being right on the edge, you can see what happened. We have scrape over there. We have a really good scrape right here. We have another scrape right down there. Another one past this. This just created a giant scrape edge all the way along here. So it really set us up for going in and out of this location. And if you have to access through the food plot, really bad. If you're getting into a stand nearby and you can't get in and out of that stand without spooking the deer on the plot, because it ends up being a holding plot, meaning those deer come here, they hold till dark and leave. It makes it difficult for you to get in and out of the stand, then that's a bad thing too. So whether it's near your neighbor's land, bad access, or it sets you up as a hunter, then those are three reasons why you really want to consider a food plot elsewhere. Now, you might consider in a certain location, you might be able to shrink that plot, and then you have enough cover and switchgrass or edging that you could walk by that plot and not spook deer. I always think back, I had a food plot in the UP of Michigan. It was about a 1/4 acre. Really liked that spot. I actually paid for a dozer operator to come in, clear a bunch of conifer out, level it out. And unfortunately, every time I went on and off the property in that location, I actually cut through public land, circled around about 3/4 of a mile, walked way back, and then would enter the property that way. I had to walk by that food plot. Really set the tone for the entire property. And I look at it like I'm planting a certain mixture, and I'm planting that mixture all around the property. And to me, deer get imprinted by smells, sights, and sounds in negative or positive ways. And so if they have a negative reaction with a certain food plot mix in one location, I believe that's going to set a table throughout the entire property. They'll smell that same mix. They recognize that taste. And if they've been spooked off that same type of food plot forage somewhere else, I believe that could transfer to other food plots. But by and large, though, regardless of if that's true or not, it ruined that area. And it took out 30, 40 acres where every time I came in and out, it was really important. So we ended up not planting that food plot. Had a blind located nearby that we built. Everything was kind of for not a lot of hours of work, but it was just a bad spot. This spot right here, we weren't sure if it would be a good spot. I didn't think it would in getting to know the land, but at the same time, it really set it up so that we could put switchgrass in here. And that kind of brings it to the final point where you have access concerns, you have the neighborly concerns, you have the problems of it setting you up for getting in and out of your stand and spooking deer nearby. And with this right here, we can just change all that by putting switchgrass here. We'll fill switchgrass in here. We're going to make up for this food plot space somewhere else in a more strategic location that's hidden that we can get around. It's not by the neighbors, of course, and we can get into stand locations on either side. By putting the switchgrass in this spot, though, that allows us to get in and out. It actually allows us to get into a blind. Behind me, there's a giant food plot. We'll be able to get into a big blind at the end of that and watch that whole food plot. So by not having this here, it gives a premium spot over there a really big boost, and we'll continue to build over there. The switchgrass here will allow us to get in and out, but what's really nice about the switchgrass, a lot of times if you don't have a food plot in a location that gives you opportunity, whether it's opportunity for access, maybe some bedding in areas we don't want deer bedded here either, so we're just putting solid switchgrass, and there's no food value in that switch, so we expect very few deer to be here. But what this switch does for us in this location is it allows us to have that switchgrass here, and then as you can see the land drops down sharply back into the woods right here. This is a little bit of a knob. The deer just circle right around this, and there's a bench right down below. What's great about this is we have great movement through here. It's very brushy on that end. It's an entrance exit for deer going out into the fields this way. We have our big holding plots right back here by our house where the deer are going there. We're going to offer even more diversity than the corn. We have switchgrass over there. We have a couple acres of switch. We have about 3.5 acres of food. We're going to diversify that food, so we have corn and we have the green mix. So we get a lot of traffic this way, and it goes right around this knob. If deer are cruising in the woods and those bucks, they're not going to pop up on here. Typically, it's out of their way. And now if we had the food plot here, now we're just setting ourselves up even if they do. By putting switchgrass here, that allows us to thicken this edge, and then we can approach into a stand location right on this corner, and then we can look right down into the bench below. We have lots of rubs and scrapes down on that shelf down there, and it makes it really nice because we can walk through the switchgrass. Because we're not walking through food to get here, we can get here in the morning hours. Big food plot there, big food plot over there, and then we have this really nice bench system down below and draw and ravine, and deer go right on that bench. So we'll be able to get into one of these mature trees right here. We have a nice white oak right here. We have walnut trees. There's lots of choices in here, shagbark hickory. So we'll be able to get into a location right here and look down into that bench. By getting rid of this food plot here, it actually creates great access for a stand location where deer aren't drawn out to here. We're just tapping into that movement side by side. We can tap into that in the morning hours, afternoon hours, be great cruising. We're adding food that way. We're building the food more that way. We're adding diversity over on this side, so we're in that pinch point. And this will be a really nice natural cruising spot for bucks this fall. So getting rid of the food plot is actually a plus, not a minus. We're going to go from it hurting us to helping us by converting that to switchgrass. And often, if you're not sure about what to do with a food plot, think about that. If you're putting food in your access, if you're allowing deer to see you get in and out of a stand, if you're putting deer on your neighbor's property because of that food plot, those are all reasons to avoid that area. And then at the same time, if that food plot is hurting a potential high quality morning and evening stand with perfect access that you can get through, then you'll want to consider cover, screening, some other option. And that's what we're doing here in this location. And this is going to be an all-star spot for this season. The cool thing is we're a few hundred yards off the road over there around the corner, but this is a real hidden corner. We don't have to walk through here and spook deer now, and it's going to set up that great cruising movement on the inside. And I can't wait to bring it to you this fall. It's going to be a hot spot. I can't wait to get a cell cam down there, one of the renders from Exodus. We'll watch that movement. And this food plot right here was already seeded with switchgrass a couple weeks ago. We frost seeded it with our method. We have to spray simazine on it here pretty soon in the next coming days. We'll wait for it to green up. We'll hit it with the 3 quarts per acre of simazine, wait for it to green up, and then we'll hit it with 2 quarts per acre of glyphosate combined with 1 pint per acre of 2,4-D. And this has already been chemically controlled and created last year. So we're going to have a really good control over our weed base. And this is going to be probably 3 to 4 foot switch by the end of the year. And will provide actually screening cover for us getting into a stand location right on this ledge right here this fall. We'll bring it to you. We're getting rid of this bad food plot location. It was a great setup for the switchgrass. Think about that. Is your food plot doing more harm than good? Just because it offers food for the deer and high quality forage doesn't mean it's a good thing. Because if you're spooking out your plot, you're hindering your ability to create a quality herd. And if you don't have a quality herd because of that food plot, because that herd is at night, you're not going to have a quality hunt. The two go together. Quality hunt, quality herd. I want you to have both. Consider your food plot locations this year, and if they're doing more harm than good, and if they're doing harm, change it, shrink it, move it, get rid of it, plant switchgrass in its place, maybe a deer bedding area, and you'll be on a great path to the success this fall. Hey guys, I really appreciate you watching today's video. We're out here having some fun today. We're planting some switchgrass, cutting some timber, making some bedding areas, but most importantly, we're putting it all together, and that's critical. Any habitat improvements you're making, you can't just make improvements because it's a good spot. You have to link those together so that helps your hunt this fall. Really, I encourage you to check out my web classes. The link is in the description. It's helped a lot of folks design their properties and do what we're out here having fun doing right now.